All right, what's up, guys? This is episode 29 of the Master of None podcast. It's gonna be a long one. I actually did an episode a week ago, but I finished recording it, and then I was like, I'm gonna publish this or send this out during the tournament. But once you get in tournament mode, it's just so hard to do anything that's outside of tournament, eating, sleeping, and other things that do with the tournament. So it's hard. So this is gonna be a full recap of the last two tournaments. They started out pretty good, and there were definitely highlights from both. Like the first tournament I played in New Jersey, it was 5 rounds. I ended up tying for third place. I beat a GM, very strong GM, the youngest GM in history, Abi Mishra. Um, it was pretty cool. Like one thing that I learned with this, if you play game 30, or I think it's under game 60, they cut your K factor. So like, for example, like not even me as a good case, but Fidel Corrales, he went 5 out of 5. He beat a 2600, a 2600, a 2500, and he's like 2580. And this guy gained 6 points in 5 rounds. So they really try to take away gaining rating off of game 30s just to avoid any type of farming. So that was something I learned, very interesting, and also less incentive to play these type of tournaments. Now, beating this strong GM, so there's a couple of reasons why it doesn't mean so much. So it was game 30. So as you can see, it's going to be not as high level of chess. Obviously, winning is still really amazing. This guy's a very strong player, and at some point, he could be GM. Or sorry, not be GM. He's already GM. He could be world champion. So that win could age super well. And what happened with this game is it was a very interesting, very cool game. I actually had a really cool knockout that I missed. This tactic that really would have won the game. But it got wild. We both got in time pressure. And then it came down to like he goes king h1 or king h3. So he has two king moves. So one is a draw. One, it looks scary, but there's really nothing I can do. I can only repeat because my king is in danger too. And the other situation was king h3, where he tries to play for the win, but I actually just have this knockout tactic. Really cool tactic. It was a knight sack, and if he takes it, he gets checkmated. If he doesn't take it, he loses his queen, and it's just game over. So that is kind of the cool story there. Now, another reason why I don't like not even like profiting, but like showboating or saying that I beat someone and like taking, I don't know, trying to take clout off their name, is that's not what the highest level people do. They don't brag about beating other people. A win is a win. Like that's all that they look at. Like they expect to beat everyone. So that's really what I want to take away from this. Now, I'm probably going to make YouTube video, not for like definitely to show people I am capable of beating good people, but it was a cool game, and the headlines, I guess, sounds pretty good. But in no way do I think I'm like good because I beat some grandmaster. No way do I think I'm better than him just because I beat him in one game. Like chess it's almost like a martial art. You get your wins, you get your losses. You just got to learn and get better. That's the real big thing. And for me, like grandmaster is the goal. That's what I'm trying to get. And if I can get that, nothing else really means anything. So I don't like this posting and bragging about beating a certain person just because they're big or famous or whatever. It's just a matter of this is my craft. I want to get better, and that's my take on that. Now, a big part of this was kind of weaponizing your rating. So if you're playing grandmaster and, for example, I'm like 200 points less rated than this guy, he really wants to win. He's going to push extra hard to win. And something that you see with this is you often beat better people when you play black. And I'm going to add this to this, beating GMs as black. So the reason you get more wins as black against grandmasters or other strong players is they feel like they have something to prove. They're going to try extra hard to win, and they're going to try extra hard not to draw. So if you can get an equal position, generally the better player is going to try to find a way to make it interesting, even if it means giving up some concessions or taking maybe even a slightly worse position, but having winning chances. So that is a great strategy to beat people better than you. A lot of times they are going to try extra hard to win or try extra hard not to draw. And you can catch them in these kind of situations, as I did in the example I talked about, where it's either a draw or he plays for the win, but he missed this tactic. Now, let me talk about my Texas tournament. So the tournament in New Jersey finished 3.5 out of 5. I lost to a friend of mine, Alex Katz, international master. He found a really cool tactic. I mean, he tricked me in the opening, and then I tricked him in the opening, and then I got a good position, but I missed this idea. If I had just been patient and focused on counterplay, and it was like a very wild, non-intuitive sack, so I kind of understand missing it, but you still don't want to miss things, right? And especially game 30, the opening's got to be sharp. And I will have my big talk on openings in a bit. So the Texas recap, I played the Southwest class. It started out super well. It was 2 out of 2. I beat a Grandmaster with black again in the second round, so I was flying high. Then I lose to like a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old little Asian kid. Now, something I want to say about playing these kids is it's not like they played some super good chess, some amazing thing. They're very beatable. But if you make a mistake, if you miss something, they will most likely find it, and then you are going to be in pretty big trouble. And that's kind of what happened there. I was literally on the edge of lighting him up. I was about to open his position and make all of the attacking moves, and he finds a very nice defensive resource, and now I'm just suffering in a worse endgame. And it's a suffering that it's not even easy to hold. It's not even easy to survive. It's almost just lights out. The position is just so bad. So you got to be super sharp. The tactics, I'm going to say this again and again. Finding tactics and not missing ideas, not missing moves for your opponent is huge. Like the games that I lost, a lot of times I just missed these ideas, or like it was a very complex position and I would miss one defensive resource or something around those lines. So you got to be super sharp. I mean, one thing you can do is try to avoid these crazy positions, but also just try to keep it stabilized. Like one big thing is you don't want to get finished. You don't want to get caught in these positions. Like sometimes you can maybe take a slightly worse move. And I'm going to talk about this, but practicality over evaluation. Like just because the computer says this is equal, it doesn't mean this is going to be the right move. Like let's say you have 2 moves. One, you're winning, but you got to find 10 moves in a row to win. That's going to be a lot harder than being slightly better, but having the leeway and the luxury of doing a lot of different things and still being okay, or still being better, or still having a good position. So that is a very important thing to take into account when playing. Just practicality. Do not get these super crazy positions and that was happening to me the second half of the tournament a lot. I was just getting these wild positions. It's not like my opponent knew them any better than I did. I wouldn't say their calculations were super insane or better. It's just I was living a dangerous lifestyle, and it pretty much caught up to me the second half of the tournament. So that's definitely a very big thing that I took away. So as far as the horrendous ending, I mean, it wasn't so bad, but it could have been a lot better, of course. Now, something that I also saw was just openings. The second half, I was getting openings I wasn't so comfortable in or so used to. And that's something that, I mean, it's pretty much just my fault. I got to prepare better. I got to play more games. That way I've seen more different ideas, different variations. And then at the same time, end of the day, you're going to get new positions in chess. Not every game is going to be something you've seen. You're going to have to react, and you're going to have to adapt to the new circumstance. And that's where it's very important to take decisions very, very seriously. If you are taking it easy and be whatever now, long term, that can catch up. Long term, that can really hurt you. So that's why every move, every decision, you really want to make sure you're doing the right thing. Now, you don't want to spend too much time trying to make every perfect move, but you should always try to think, okay, why is he doing this? What is he trying to do? And if you can understand your opponent, you're going to be able to have a much better sense of the position and sense of what you should be doing. I know my round 7 game, this is very the guy played an opening I'm pretty sure he doesn't play. I think he might have prepared it for me, and if I had taken a little extra time to try to figure out what he's trying to do, I could have gotten a better position. But instead, I was all right, whatever, I'm just going to play. He's going to end up losing. And then, what do you know? He didn't end up losing. And then, by some miracle, I ended up drawing that game. But I should have lost for sure. I was suffering. I was worse. I made it interesting. But even then, he did a very good job navigating his way out of this. Now, this is, another thing that I want to talk about. This time control. So it was 80 minutes with 30-second delay, and then after 40 moves you get another 30 minutes. So flagging your opponent is near impossible unless you're winning and they have a very tough position. If you're worse and they're low on time, a lot of times it's going to be very easy for them to play. Like, don't count on flagging your opponent in a worse position where there isn't much counterplay. They can easily find moves. There's like, none of my opponents blunder this tournament. I mean, if anything, like, and I didn't like blunder, but I missed some ideas, and I got my opponents just like the upper hand in multiple situations, which added up to getting a win in certain games for my opponent. So that, I think, is very, very important. Now, something that I also learned with this tournament is it's very important to be ambitious with white. Like, white privilege, I don't know about real life, but in chess is definitely a thing. You get to dictate the pace. You get to decide what you're going to do. And that's why I think it's important to really be prepared as white. I've been focusing a lot on black because I'm always like, okay, being black is harder. You got to make sure you know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to lose. But now I can definitely see the white side has been suffering now. I mean, like I said, like, the openings were weird. Like, not only was it tough, but I wasn't getting like the looks that I'm normally used to or the looks that I normally do very well in. So that is why being very well prepared is very important, because there's going to be such a wide variety. Like, some tournaments, you get everything you dreamed of. You get all the openings that you want to play, that you like to play, and life ends up perfectly. And I think the difference between being a grandmaster or a very strong chess player is you are good in every position. It's not just 60% of positions where you're good and 40% of positions where you're bad. It's like, I know everything. I've got everything covered. I know exactly what to do here. Of course, there's going to be some positions you like better, but your weaknesses are not as weak, and your strengths are all strengths. So it's really this consistency, this lack of holes in your repertoire, lack of holes in your technique. That is really, I think, what sets apart the higher level of chess players from the lower level of chess players in the tier system. Now, and I'm going to keep going. Another thing that I want to say about this is, when you're playing low rated players, don't just show up for the paycheck. Don't just go there expecting your opponent to lose and then you win. Like, okay, every once in a while that's going to happen and it's great. And something that I see, which always kind of sucks, is when you're playing bad or when you're having a bad tournament, your opponents normally don't gift you these wins. They don't gift you like easy games, or not all the time. For some reason, whenever you're struggling, everyone else is doing better. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know if it's a luck thing. I mean, I'm sure it's a combination of all these different ideas, but you need to show up every game with the mindset like, this is going to be a battle. I expect my opponent to play the best chess. I must also play the best chess, and may the best chess player win. If you show up there like, okay, I know I'm going to win this game. I know he's going to do this. He's going to mess up here, and I'm going to win. If he doesn't do that, it's going to make the game a lot harder. And I think what kind of hurt me this tournament was, I started out so well. I felt invincible. I was like, well, I'm just going to win. Like, I beat a grandmaster. I beat all these guys. Like, why should the people that are worse than me have any chance against me? And if you don't do anything, if you don't make good moves, your opponent's not going to have anything to worry about. And then they're going to start making good moves. Now there's a whole mental battle going on about, like, I can't believe I'm losing, or I can't believe he's not losing, or I can't believe it's this complicated. If you don't go in to the game, to the fight, to the battle, to the match, to the test with the right mindset, it's kill or be killed, things are going to be harder, and results are not going to be as good. So this was a great lesson to me. I'm going to probably wrap up the episode with this, but I'm just going to say it now. There's a great scene from Batman where Batman falls down when he's a kid. His dad saves him, and Bruce Wayne, Batman, is all depressed, like, what is life? Well, I can't believe this happened to me. My life sucks. And then his dad asks him the question, Bruce, why do we fall? And then he tells Bruce, we fall so we can learn to pick ourselves up. So all these life lessons, the faster you learn them, the better you learn them. The more you don't make the same mistakes, the better you're going to get. But if you keep making the same mistakes, don't be surprised if you keep staying in the same place, or even worse, you get worse. So these are all very important things to take into consideration, important things to learn from, to think about going into your next tournament. And those are kind of the big lessons that I learned from the tournament specifically. Now, some other kind of side parts about the tournament that I want to talk about. When it's tournament time, no time for other things. Like, for example, I was going to send out a podcast episode. I taught 2 lessons while I was playing this tournament. It's distractions. Like, this is my life. This is how I put food on the table. If I'm going to go play, I should go 100% focused, 100% no distraction. Like, you'll see a lot, and I noticed this with like one of my friends, is like, he said his life is being really hard right now. He's going through a lot of things, and the tournament was kind of a struggle for him. But then you see on the flip side when life is amazing, when you're on top of everything, when, let's say, for example, you have a great girlfriend, or like you have a lot of money, or your job's going super good, or school's going super good, or you're really happy with all your friends. Tournaments go better. The games seem easier. It's like one is sunshine and rainbows. The other, it's raining and cloudy, and you don't know when the rain's going to stop. So chess reflects your life 100%. So really try to play when you're at the best state of mind. Try to fight when you're at the best state of mind. Try to compete when you're at the best state of mind. And if you're not in the right state of mind, really what you want to do is fix that first and then go compete. Because if you go in the competition like, okay, if I do well, then I'm going to become in a better state of mind. It's great when things go good. When things go good, everyone is happy, everything is great. But the problem is when things go bad and inside or in your mind things are bad, things go 100 times worse. So really going in with the right mental clarity, the right mental attitude is very important. Now during tournaments, like especially like once the tournament started shifting from a great tournament to a bad tournament, one thing I would do is I would just sit on chess base or sit at my computer and try to go through a bunch of openings or try to fix a bunch of stuff last minute. And this last minute preparation is very tough. Like, if anything, I was getting more stuck and more hopeless studying chess during the tournament because I just couldn't find good variations, or I couldn't find ways to fix these holes. So I think during a tournament, do the preparation before, and during the tournament, either take your mind off of it or don't focus so much on like opening or certain things. Just read a book. Read a book about strategy. Read a book about great games. Be inspired. That, I think, is the better way to play during the tournament than to really try to last minute cram everything in, last minute make sure everything's okay, or last minute try to patch up holes. Like, probably better than patching up holes is play free, play with a good mental state, sleep well, enjoy the time with your friends, talk about life, talk about good things, be in a good mental space, because that, I think, and you can kind of see it with certain people, like a friend of mine who actually ended up winning the tournament. Man, this guy was living free the whole tournament. Yes, he would prepare before games, but if there were no pairings, he would be free, enjoying, talking to everyone. Just like, I think one of the things he said is like, don't worry about a bad tournament. There's always going to be a worse tournament. And it sounds like a pessimistic thing to say, but when you realize that, you're kind of free too. You're free to be like, okay, if this is not going to be worse, let me just play. Let me just play and see what happens. And there's the opposite kind of thought process where it's like you should play every game like it's the last game of your life, but then that puts a lot of pressure. And from the music side, I used to play the saxophone. My saxophone teacher always told me, like, the time you play the best is when you play free, when you don't think about it. So this balance, this don't go too hard, don't go too soft, be right where you want to be in the right Hakuna Matata. Like I will say, after this tournament, I took a couple of days off. I watched Lion King, ate some cookout, just got back in the gym. But I really took like 2-3 days off and just like sat back and enjoyed life. Or just like took my mind off of life. And like, yeah, the first 2 days, having a bad tournament was super depressing. I was definitely very sad, but you give it time, you get your mind right, you take your mind off of it, and then you come back ready to put in work, ready to grind. Because this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. I'm not going to get Grandmaster in 1 day, in 1 week, in 1 month, or maybe even 1 year. Honestly, I don't even know when I'm going to get Grandmaster. But as long as I keep getting better, as long as I keep working on my craft, that's all I can do, with the goal in mind to make Grandmaster. So that is pretty much kind of where I stand post-tournament. The last thing I want to say about the tournament is don't blame your openings. Of course, you want to be non-predictable. I think that's very important, because if you're predictable, your opponent's going to know exactly what to do or exactly where to hit you. And that's why, like, you also want to vary it up with the opening you play. You can play one opening, but you can play it 2-3 different ways. And if you do that, Now you're unpredictable, even though you're predictable. So now your opponent can't know exactly what you're going to do. I know it's a very convoluted statement, but the idea is, like, most of the time it's not the opening's fault. Now, some of them, okay, it could be the opening's fault if you were not prepared well enough, or if you had not practiced enough this opening. But once again, that's not the opening's fault. That's your fault for not playing enough games or putting enough work. So once again, I'm not going to blame the opening. I'm not going to officially quit playing anything. Now, I do want to diversify and pick different things to practice, but don't make that cardinal sin of blaming the opening. I've done it. I tried to do it this past tournament. I caught myself doing it. I fixed it, and now we're just back in the martial arts form, the martial arts mentality, trying to get better every day, be better than yesterday. Okay, so that's enough for chess tournaments. About 20 minutes of recap there. Now let me talk about students. So the tough part about playing chess tournaments, and I guess this is a good transition, is I played back-to-back tournaments. So that means I missed back-to-back weekends, and I only had 1 day of lessons in between Wednesday. So I missed about, I would say, 60 to 70% of my students because I was playing. And that is kind of the annoying part about playing in tournaments, and why having a bad tournament is so depressing. It's like, not only did I lose money spending all this money, but I didn't make money working instead. So it's like a double negative, a double whammy, a double entendre. I think double entendre is not the right terminology, but it hurts double more because you spent all this money, you spent all this time, and you came away worse than you came in, which is kind of depressing, but you're never really worse. You just have more experience, and hopefully you'll learn your lessons. So that leads to the students, and the tough part about playing back-to-back tournaments especially is you can miss 1 weekend, and that's not so bad. But if you miss 2 weeks in kid time is like a long time. Like, they become different people. Like, they almost forget that they have to practice every day. They have to practice, or not every day, but 3 times a week. And then it's almost like I can't get mad at them because I wasn't there for 2 weeks. So I can kind of understand why they went astray. So that is why, like, to miss 2 weekends in a row, gotta have a real good reason, and you gotta be real prepared. Because if you're doing that, you're going to win. If you don't win, then that's not a good. That's a red flag. So that's definitely something that you gotta keep in mind. And to all the other coaches out there, and all to the students, like, just because your coach is out of town. I mean, I'm not out of town on vacation. I'm out of town playing chess, going to war, trying to get better, having these battles. So if anything, I think it should be motivation to your students that, hey, I have a coach that's serious trying to get better. I should be serious and also trying to get better. So definitely, I understand. But if you want to get good, if you are a student of chess, if you are a scholar trying to get better at the game of chess, don't take days off just because your coach is not even taking days off, but not there to teach you or not there to check up on you. Remember, if you want to get good, you have to do everything. My job is to make it as easy for you as possible and to save you time. But there's amount of work, amount of hours you got to put in if you want to be good. Now, another thing that I'm doing with my students is I've been taking notes during class, which is really cool, which is really great. And it's not like I'm taking notes, I'm making my students take notes. And now, on top of the notes, I'm color coordinating the spreadsheets. So that way it's easier to pick out the areas that you want to work on, as well as the areas where you're seeing a lot of problems, which I guess is saying the same thing. Like, the way I'm doing it is green is openings, yellow is middle game, red is end game, and blue is general knowledge. So anytime we find a mistake in the opening, we're going to add the note, put it in blue, put it in green, boom. There you go. Now you can see the opening, things that you want to fix. So lessons are progressively getting better and better and more specific and intricate, and really with a goal in mind of improving my students. And I think the best way to do that is be more specific, be more deliberate with what you're trying to do. That is going to help people know what they have to do and know what it's going to take to get better. So if you're not sure how to get better, if you're not sure what you're doing wrong, try to be as specific as possible. That will definitely cut the learning curve, cut the time it takes to get better by a huge K factor. Okay, so that's color coordinating. Now, one good thing though is, since I am taking lessons very seriously, since I'm being very hard on my students, word of mouth is really helping the business. Just people see their friends' kids or their kids or like their nephews working hard, training hard, filling out a spreadsheet, competing in tournaments, they want to have their student or have their child or themselves work with someone who's very serious about helping them get better. And that's what my job is. You pay me money, you pay me good money to help you get better. So I'm going to make sure that you get value out of your payment. So I think that's very important. And that is also why like word of mouth goes very hand in hand with this. Like if you do a good job, people know you're doing a good job. You know you're doing a good job, and people are happy to tell others about you, and you're more than welcome, or you're more than happy to explain to people how you teach, why you teach, and what you do, and the purpose behind it. So that has been how I've been doing with lessons. Now, one thing I think is very important though is planning ahead of time, and that means coordinating the tournament, coordinating lessons. If you're going to miss 2 weekends in a row, you should let your students know 2-3 weeks in advance. That way they can plan ahead. That way if you want to do a makeup, you can do that so that you're not so far behind or so far disinvolved with your coach for 2 weeks or something. So I think planning ahead is very important when you're going out of town, when you're doing different things. And then I think the best way to close this is, a lot of people ask, how many tournaments should you play per month? And what I generally say for this is, how much work are you putting in? If you're putting in the normal 3 days a week, the normal, maybe say 3 to 5 hours per week, pretty consistently every week, maybe you're not going too crazy, but you're not missing, you're not completely taking weeks off, then I would say at least play one tournament. You're putting in that much time, play one small tournament, play one big tournament, but really try to play once a month. Now, where this I think is important is if you're putting a lot of time per week, if you're putting in 3 hours per day or 1 hour every day, and you're putting in somewhere between 7 to 20 hours of training each week. And I mean, remember, this is not just chess, this is anything else. If you're doing it that much, then I think you should play even more than once a month. You should play twice a month, 3 times a month, or if you can, 4 times a month, until you start hitting some big blocks. Like if you see yourself making the same mistake again and again, don't play a tournament until you fix that mistake. Or the next tournament, focus on fixing that mistake. Like I will give one example. I have an older student who, knowledge-wise, probably knows more than the vast majority of my students. Working hard-wise, works harder than, puts in more hours than the vast majority of my students. He's only about 1,200, but he works super, super hard. So I told him, like, hey man, if you're going to work this hard, if you're going to do this much, and you can, play every weekend. Play every weekend, figure out what you're doing wrong. For you, it's more of a problem of you need to fix your mistakes, not learn more. Because he's an older guy. He's been playing chess for a really long time. He's read a bunch of books. He's even wrote a book on chess. So for him, knowledge is not the problem. It's more get your reps in, figure out the common mistakes, and make sure you don't keep making them. So how many tournaments should you play per month? It depends on your goals, how much work you're putting in, and how good you want to get. But this is the best way to close. If you're putting in a lot of work, if you're working really hard, if this is something that means a lot to you, by all means, play 2 times a month, 3 times a month, even more. Because you want to get results based off how much work you're putting in. And remember, chess is not like you're going to win 15 games in a row and go up 800 points. No, you're going to have a good tournament, you're going to have a bad tournament, you're going to have an okay tournament, you're going to have a very good tournament, and sometimes you're going to have a very bad tournament. You just have to make sure you're conscious and self-aware enough to understand what is going on. If I'm playing well and things are going good, keep playing. If I'm getting stuck and the same mistake keeps coming up, okay, let me fix that first before I play again. And that's why having a coach, having a training partner, having someone that you can get a second opinion on for your chess is very important. So that's a good bit about my students for this past 2 weeks and what they've been doing, and just kind of the growth of the whole, I guess, Wolf Chess University, and stuff that's going on. Actually, last thing I'll say is a friend of mine and I are running a very big tournament March 4th. This is great for the community. I know a lot of my students are going to play. A lot of my students are very excited to play. I actually, Friday night, had a lesson with my students from about 9 o'clock to 11:30, just reviewing everything, going through every opening, answering all his questions. He's very serious about getting better, and I appreciate that or respect that. And I will spend a lot of time trying to help you get better at chess. And that is why playing tournaments is important, because you will be way more serious about getting better. You're going to learn faster because the games mean more, and you're just going to officially be a tournament chess player. And it's really not that hard to play a chess tournament. All you got to do is look one up, get a USCF membership, and then you can just talk to some people here and there. They'll tell you what to do, and you're good to go. So that is how I'm going to close the students aspect of this episode. So last three things. So stand up, I didn't obviously get to go the last week, and this week was my vacation week, pretty much my come to Jesus week. So I didn't get to go too much. Now I did go the week before the tournaments, and I don't think I ever talked about that. So one thing I saw with stand up is if I stick too much to the script, if I practice, and I was practicing like 2 hours before the set, I was saying the set again and again and again and again. And what I notice is when I practice too much, when I just say the same thing, when I don't really understand why I'm saying what I'm saying in a certain order, when I'm putting too much pressure on saying all the right things, if something goes wrong, boom, I forget everything, and now the whole flow is gone. That is why I think it's important not to stick too closely to what you're going to say. Just have ideas and flow with them. And then have punchlines that associate with those ideas, and just try to hit those. If you try too hard to be close, then if chaos comes in, you don't know what to do. But if it's all chaos, if you're not prepared, if you're just kind of winging it or riffing, yeah, you'll have some cool spontaneous moments, but there's going to be a lot of dead silence, a lot of wasted words, a lot of wasted energy. So that is why, I'll say it and I'll say it again, balance is key. You must be able to do all aspects of, not about all aspects, but you don't want to try too hard and you don't want to try too little. You want to have balance. Now, another thing that I saw the week before I went on these tournaments is I had some big crowds. Like Monday night, there was a very big crowd, and Friday evening. And both of them, like, I had my moments. Friday definitely was better than Monday. Monday was actually really rough. Monday was the first time I had a tough crowd. So what happened was I got the mic. I just started doing my bit. And then like 15 people got up, or maybe like 10 people got up, and then they were paying for their checks. So there was a huge commotion. I couldn't even hear myself say anything. I don't think anyone could really hear me say anything. The silver lining there was I was so lost that I just started talking to the crowd. So I did more, I guess, crowd work in parentheses, if you can call it that. It was just like ad-libbing, talking about random stuff, and then trying to mix in the few go-to punchlines that I have that did get some laughs, because they're like basically like tactics. Like I have like 3-4 lines down where it's like, it's so funny you have to laugh a little. I'm not gonna say you have to laugh a lot. You're gonna be dying laughing, but you're gonna get a chuckle, and if someone's already trying to laugh, then generally they're gonna laugh a decent amount. So it's good to have those to fall back on. But now I'm going in with a very mature mindset of like, don't try too hard, but definitely practice and have the ideas. And also, like, you can kind of take it back to chess, where I was talking about openings, and being practical is way better than memorizing all the right moves, the perfect moves. It's like, how can I say this in a way that even if I forget something, it's very easy to get back on track, versus a very specific, can't break out of this routine kind of set where it's like, I have to say this, this, and this. The transitions aren't really that smooth. If it's very easy to forget one idea and then kind of be lost. It's like when you're doing stand-up, especially in the beginning, like I am, try to be very practical, free-flowing with the set. Something that it's not going to be like, I got to memorize every, like, 500 or 499 out of 500 words. Otherwise, none of this is going to work. So that I think is very important. And then I think stand-up, a good lesson that I can tie into chess that it has taught me, is you need to be prepared. Don't go up if you're unprepared. Like this week, I could have forced myself to go up. Like Thursday evening, I was actually pretty free, but I hadn't gone over my stuff. I didn't want to just go there and say the same stuff. I really wanted to prepare, know what I'm going to say, come up with some new stuff. And I have actually written some nice stuff. So this next week, I will definitely be going up, and I will really be looking to have some good sets this upcoming week. Now that vacation week is over, and I am back into training, back into the flow of things. So that is what I have to say with stand-up. Now for Jiu Jitsu and boxing, so I officially am back training today, went to the gym, got some great sparring in. I learned how to inside fight. Not that I'm a master or anything, but I learned some tactics for inside fighting. Generally, what you want to do is you want to have your closest shoulder to their closest shoulder and almost like lean on each other, and then put your hand up. Watch the uppercuts. The uppercuts come out of nowhere. And if you're fighting someone who knows what they're doing, man, they can really set you up. Like Mike Tyson, he had this great combination. It was like hook to the body and then uppercut, and he would do it so fast, so smooth. And a cool idea with boxing is like what you do is you try to work the body, and once you start hitting their arms, hitting their hands, hitting their guard, that's when you know their guard is dropped, and now you can go up high. So if you punch to the body once, punch the body again, the second time you feel elbow, now you can go up top because he has adjusted his hands to block the body, but now his head is going to be more open. So this strategy, and this is why I think boxers are very smart. Like, and I've probably said this before, but okay, to a level, if you're bigger, stronger, you can hit really hard, you're confident, you're going to beat people who are non-confident or who just can't take the punches or don't have the technique to dodge, to evade, or to outclass you. But at some point, you're going to play someone your level, and that is where you need to be smart. You need to actually be able to adapt. You can't just memorize things and just copy and paste those. Like, I was watching a bunch of actually a whole highlight reel of Jon Jones's his career, and one of his best in-fight adaptions was when he fought Glover Teixeira. Originally, his idea was to fight Glover on the outside and try to stick and move and try to use his kicks, his range to outclass Glover. But during the fight, Jon noticed that Glover was really winding up on his shots, and if people are winding up on their shots, one, you can see it coming, and two, the way to beat that is beat them to the punch. Get close, get inside, and hit them there. So that's what Jon, like, originally his plan was to fight from the outside, but once he saw that Glover was really trying to fight from the outside and was being predictable about it, he adjusted and fought on the inside, so that because that was almost like super effective against Glover's strategy that fight, and Jon had a great fight, won a decision, not close at all. It just was just hitting him. And when I get to Jon Jones, let me talk about some of these fights. They are honestly insane. But that's where I think being a fighter is smart. That's why being predictable is a very bad idea. So with my coach today, we were boxing, and he said he noticed that every time I slipped right, I always rolled left. And he said that after a couple times of seeing that, he would have timed a nice hook right after the slip because he knew I was going to go that side every time. So that is why being predictable is very, very dangerous. Because if they can put you in a box and know exactly where you're going to be, now they can load up and go all in on that shot because they know you're going to be there. That's why you got to be unpredictable. And then he showed me a couple different ways that after I slip right, I can do this. If I slip right, I can go to the outside. If I can slip right, I can drop back and throw a quick uppercut. So this is how you get better. You learn different ideas, different kind of transitions, and then you add to it, and now you are an unpredictable force, and you have more tools. That's the other good part about it. Like, if you know your opponent is weak in a certain situation or certain area, now you can tailor the game or tailor your attack to suit where you're going to be strong and they're going to be weak. Now, Jiu Jitsu, I did not go today. Right now, I'm just trying to focus on getting back in shape. But also a huge thing that would always bother me in Jiu Jitsu was I'm the smaller guy. I hated fighting or not rolling with bigger people. So what I'm trying to do is I'm really trying to bulk up now. Trying to hit the weights, put on some more muscle. So if my excuse was being too small, I'm just going to get bigger. I can't get taller, but I can get stronger. And that definitely is going to have its advantages. Now, of course, I must learn technique. And technique is number one. But just like someone being bigger and stronger and taller is annoying, if I get bigger and stronger, that's going to combat that. So I can control what I can control and then work on what I have to work on. But I think instead of making excuses and saying I'm small, I'm slow, I'm inexperienced, if you're small, get bigger. If you're slow, work on getting faster or work on your timing. And if you're less experienced, get more experience. Spar more, watch more footage, all these different things. So this is all strategy that you can use to get better, and I highly recommend. And that's why I think to wrap this up, there's two things I want to talk about Jon Jones, but also I think success is more of a way of a life and a decision than just like one outcome. Success is being ready. Success is being prepared. Success is holding yourself to a higher standard. And the higher standard, the higher your expectations, the better your results are going to be. Now, don't get too mad. Remember, balance. Once again, I'll say it again. Balance is key. But do everything you can do to be successful. The way you look, the way your hair is cut, the way you dress, the jewelry you wear, the chains you wear, the earrings you wear, the sunglasses you wear, all these different things. Try to optimize all of it, because those are things you can control. You can't control how someone feels about you. You can't control the outcome of 50 decisions. You're going to make some bad ones. But whatever you can control that, because that's the easier thing to do than controlling how tall you are or how much punching power you have, stuff like this. Now, there's a UFC. I think I'm going to drop this to 26, so today. But next week, my boy Jon Jones is coming back to the ring. I am honestly so excited. Jon Jones is one of my favorite fighters of all time. The reason I like Jon Jones so much is, one, he's the greatest of all time. Two, he is human like all of us. He has his demons. He has the things he fights inside of him. But the reason he's so good is his mentality, how hard he works. So Jon Jones was a wrestler in college, had to drop out of college because his girlfriend got pregnant, and just started training. And within 9 months, he already had 6 fights. That's insane. 9 months of training, 6 fights. The dude was wasting no time. And he was dominating everyone. The guy is really just one of the greatest of all time. And I just understand the pain that he goes through. I don't know if it's the Gemini in me, but you want to be so good, but you also just want to have an excuse, or you want to party, you want to have fun. It's a very hard balance, and I'm sure as he got more successful and more money and more fame, it got even harder, because now people are looking at you like, wow, you're the man. Whatever you do is amazing. You can do anything right. You're whatever you want, sir, I'll give it to you. So I am super, super excited for Jon Bones Jones to come back. He's fighting Cyril Gane, a very, very good fighter, a good movement fighter. But I think Jon Jones is gonna win. I think at heavyweight he's gonna have more power. Now, one thing I really want to see is that wrestling game. If you watch young Jon Jones, just the way he moved, the way he would take people down, the way he would mix things up, was unlike anything I've ever seen before. And if you watch his last 2 fights, the less convincing ones against Dominic Reyes and Diego Santos, you don't see him mixing it up much. Or when he did start mixing it up, it would be round 4, round 5, not early on. So I really hope that Jon Jones comes out fast, comes out strong, and also comes out creative. Because I think that's really his distance management and just the variety of shots that he can throw are what separate Jon Jones from not even just your average fighter, but even the great fighters. I think for me, he's pound for pound number 1. Yeah, of course, he's made some mistakes. We've all made mistakes. Why do we get mad at famous people? Famous fighters, too. That is not one of those casual, easy, rich people things that, you don't just have a hedge fund. Being a fighter, man, you're putting your life out on the line every day. You're training hard every day. You're getting hit every day. You're hitting people every day. That's not the same. So 100%, I would never be someone to judge a fighter for what they do or what happens. As long as they try to show remorse for it, I've tried to improve and become better. Now, I will go through this card just a little bit. Valentina's fighting. Alexa Grasso is a good fighter. So I think that's going to be a good fight. Valentina has been looking a little less human, or a little less godlike and a little bit more human recently. So it could be interesting. Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to be a great fight. Rakhmonov is 16-0. Also one of those almost like Jon Jones fighters, perfect and has no weaknesses, has has good ability in every aspect of fighting. He's got a good ground game, he's got good striking, he's got good fight IQ, he's got good takedowns, he's got everything. So he's a real complete product. Gamrot versus Jalen Turner will be a very interesting fight. So Turner is supposed to be one of the most freakishly gifted athletes in the UFC. His size, his wingspan is supposed to be unreal for his division, and I mean he's a good fighter. He's beaten a lot of good people. He's up and coming. He beat Brad Riddell by submission. He knocked out Jamie Malarkey. He beat Uros Medic round 1, who I thought was a really, really good fighter. Like, this guy is, like, just killing everyone. He beat Joshua Kulabau, too. So, like, that's going to be a great fight, I think. And let's not forget that, what's his face? Matus Gamrot is also a very, very good fighter. Had a sick Kimura against Jeremy Stevens. Bo Nickel, 3-0, and already is on the main card. The best wrestler the UFC has ever seen. That's going to be a great fight. And Jamie Pickett is a solid test, but not a real test, I would say. So, like, and Bo Nichols, he's grappled with, what's his face? Wow, I can't believe I forgot. Jiu Jitsu. Gordon Ryan. Sorry, Bo Nichols has rolled to Gordon Ryan, and he's honestly held his own. And, like, on the feet, like, he can actually, like, give Gordon Ryan some problems. Like, Gordon has to pull guard and stuff. So, and on top of that, Bo Nichols got hands. He's got knockout power for sure. So that's going to be an electric fight. And kind of what I want to cap it off after that is my boy Cody Garbrandt is fighting. Cody Garbrandt from day one has been one of my favorite fighters. I love the flash that he has. I love the pizzazz, the way he fights, the flair he has, the speed in his hands. He's fighting Trevin Jones, who is definitely someone that he can beat. And this is, I would say, is his first very winnable fight in a while. Like, everyone else has been just top of the food chain kind of fighters, and now Cody finally gets to step down. So I would really, really like to see Cody win this fight, and I will 100% be supporting him and probably putting some money on him as well. So that is UFC 284, kind of the big highlights, but nothing bigger than Jon Jones coming back after 3 years against Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight title. That will be, I'll be so excited for that fight, and I will be running a chess tournament, and it will be just one of the best Saturdays of my life, I think. Okay, so last thing to wrap up, I'm trying to keep this under an hour. It's just things about life. So yeah, balancing it in season and balancing off season, two completely different things. Off season, everything you have twice as much time to do. That is why when you're in season, when you're competing, when you are busy, you really got to be on top of your stuff. Cut corners in the sense of wake up early, eat healthy, don't waste time. Friday night, Saturday all day. Use that time to get stuff done. Just because it's the weekend doesn't mean you just do nothing the whole day. You got to do stuff. That is very, very important. So if you are in season, if you are in one of those seasons of life where there's a lot of things happening, good and bad, be on top of your stuff, because time won't wait. Like, this is the time to get stuff done. Now, also, sleeping is very important, but please, and I'm talking to myself more than anyone else, don't oversleep. don't just because you need to sleep doesn't mean you sleep 10 hours instead of 8. Take the 8 hours and get back to work. It's very easy to make excuses when you have a lot of things going on, because you have a lot of things going on. It's understandable why you're slacking in some areas or you're doing less in certain areas. So that is why it is very important to 100% be on top of everything, and good things will happen. Now, I'm trying to fix my sleep schedule for certain events. Like, in the normal week, I have to go to the gym around 10 o'clock, so I can go to bed at 3 or 4 and still wake up and get, I would say, enough hours of sleep. But chess tournaments, I have to be well rested. That means I have to sleep at a normal time. And if I'm so used to sleeping at 3 or 4 a.m., it's going to be hard to fall asleep at 11 or 12, so I can wake up at 8 a.m. refreshed and having enough time to go to the gym. For me, a cheat code that I've seen for falling asleep is reading before I go to bed. I've been reading a couple books. I got some chess books, non-chess books, and just reading before I go to bed has been a better way to get tired, but also to, like, work my mind before I go to bed, which is something that I'm always trying to do. I'm trying to learn, trying to get better, trying to get to that finished product, that final form version that I'm striving for my whole life. Okay, so to go with that, we're just working out, eating during tournaments. I did work out one of the days at the tournament, and I felt great. I didn't want to do too much cardio because then I'll get sweaty and stuff. So that's something definitely to take into consideration. But these small things, like I said, and I said before, like, control the little things that you can do, because I'll take all of those advantages. Because once we go to battle, once we start playing, I don't have certainty of what's going to happen. But if I can control that I eat well, I eat healthy, I have energy, I'm not sluggish, you're going to have more advantages. The more advantages you can get, the better chances you have of winning. Now, something that always happens to me when I travel is I end up losing things. Headphones, shirt, pants, bracelets, earrings, necklaces, all this kind of stuff. The way to avoid that is you have to be on top. You have to plan ahead. Okay, this early morning flight, this like stay up all night, I can't be doing that no more. I mean, I got away with it. I made the flight. I had a 5:45 a.m. flight. Went to bed at 12. Woke up at 2:30. Very risky too. I don't even think I set an alarm. So God bless. Like if I missed this flight, don't know what I would have done. So plan ahead and see the tough positions before they come, because life is hard enough. Why would you want to handicap yourself? Okay, so that's how you avoid losing things. I kind of talked about how success is a choice. It's a lifestyle. Like I said, preparing the field is like getting a haircut, dressing well, expecting good things. Another great one is surround yourself with happy, encouraging, good people. Now, you don't want to get yes men who are just going to say yes, yes, no matter what. You want people who are going to be realistic. Like, if you have a big goal, if you have something like you want to tell someone, like, hey, my dream is to do this, don't just surround yourself with people who are going to be like, yeah, do it no matter what. Like, forget everything else. You got it. Like, don't just ignore the red flags because there's green flags. Have people that are going to be practical. They're not going to say, I don't think you can do that, but they're going to say, like, okay, how are you going to make that happen? What are you going to do to make this happen? And as long as you have some kind of plan, then people should believe in you, encourage you, and try to help you in whatever ways they can. And a great transition is a pack of wolves versus a lone wolf. There are pros and cons to both. So people think being a lone wolf is always a bad thing, or in general a bad thing. There are pros to this. You don't get distracted. You don't have to rely on other people. You don't have to coordinate with other people so much. Now, the disadvantage of this is you can't accomplish as much. Yes, you have no distractions, but you have less people helping you. You have less hands working together to accomplish a task. You have less people keeping you accountable or checking you or watching to see if there's some kind of a mistake and if they can catch it before you do or catch it when you miss it. So this is the pros and cons of a lone wolf. Like a pack of wolves, if it is a efficient pack of wolves, if it is an efficient group of people working towards a task, 100% it's going to be better than being a lone wolf. What really makes a lone wolf kind of successful is when they're competing against a group of people who don't mesh together, who have competing interests, who don't have good chemistry. So really what you want to do is almost like start at a lone wolf and find people who are going to make you better. Find people who have the same mindset as you. We're gonna be successful. We're gonna all contribute. We're gonna all carry our own weight, and we're going to trust each other and encourage each other to get the best possible result. So that is kind of the breakdown between pack of wolves and lone wolf. Like I said, there's pros to both, there's cons to both, but you should strive to have a group of friends that all are in this with you. Not 100%, a community. A community of high-striving individuals is the way to go. Now, the last two things I want to kind of wrap this episode up with is don't ignore red flags because they are green ones. So this is something I do in life with tournaments. This is something I do in life with relationships. And this is something I do on the chessboard. So just because there's some good qualities, for example, just because I get free entry in a tournament or I get free room in a tournament, doesn't mean I ignore the fact that the entry fee is really high. I haven't made money in a week or a week and a half. If I don't win money here, then it's going to be financially very tough to recover from. So that's an example for a chess tournament. For positions, it's like sometimes a piece sacrifice looks just so tempting. And this is actually one of the games I played against this international master, Jakub Fus. It's like the attack looks so good, but after calculating a couple, or actually sadly after playing a couple moves, I realized that he really neutralized the attack and I had rushed in when I shouldn't have. And the reason I rushed in was because I saw one or two green flags, but I ignored the 3 or 4 that make it not worth it. What you want to do is assess both the green flags and assess the red flags as well, and then decide, okay, are there enough green flags to overcome the red flags? Or are the red flags going to be too much and it's not worth it? So that is definitely a big life lesson that I learned from these tournaments. Like also another example that I saw in the tournament situation was I lost one tough game, and after that there was really like I could win all my games and I could maybe break even in rating or like gain a couple points, but I had to win all my games. If I lost another one, boom, everything gone. If I lost the second one, boom, months of work gone. So that is where it's like if the motivation's not going to be there, if you're going to just be showing up to take paychecks, then see the red flags coming and don't just play hero with yourself and say that, okay, well, I'm going to win everything. All the green flags are there. I'm good to go. And it's going to totally be worth it. No, don't do that. It's dangerous. And then the last application is with the relationships. And I think this is a very important one. Like just because, and for my example, it's going to be for just because a girl has a couple of green flags or vice versa. If you're a girl and you're dating a guy or looking at guys, just because they have a couple of good qualities doesn't mean you overlook the red flags. For example, there's a girl that I know who, yes, she's sweet, she's fun, she's spontaneous, but I don't know if I quite trust her. I don't think, I don't know. Let's just say I see a lot of red flags about taking responsibility and blaming others and this kind of stuff. And when you get married, you get a choice. You don't have to it's not a choice of one. It's a choice of pretty much all the people that you're going to meet. And just because this person has 1 or 2 green flags but 4 or 5 red flags doesn't mean you ignore all the red flags. A lot of life, and as you get older, a lot of what you see is everything is long term. Long term is the right way to look at things, because it's going to be not just a day or two, not just a month or two. In certain decisions or certain choices, it's going to be a 2, 5, 10-year kind of project or kind of like commitment. And if you see it coming early on, avoid it later on, because later on is going to be 100 times worse. So please, hopefully I can save someone from a bad marriage or a bad relationship or a bad choice or a bad chess tournament or a bad side job or side activity or job or whatever. Really try to be practical and reasonable and self-aware to understand what is really going on here and is this going to be worth it. And the last thing that I want to wrap this all up with is the name of this episode, Why Do We Fall, Bruce? I already gave the backstory of what this means and where in Batman it came from. So if you have a bad tournament, if you have a bad match, if you have a bad fight, if you have a bad test, if you have a bad relationship, learn what you can from it. I would recommend writing it down somewhere. Write it somewhere where you can easily find it and know exactly, okay, when I did this, that happened. Like I said, be specific. If you can be specific, you're going to save yourself a lot of time, a lot of hassle, and a lot of ambiguity when making decisions. So why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up. Now, don't keep falling and keep picking yourself up, because then you're not learning. You're just falling. But if you fall, you get tripped, and you understand, okay, next time I put my foot here, I watch out for this so I don't fall. Boom. You are now officially a better version of yourself. All right, so I think that's the way to wrap it up. A little bit under an hour is exactly where I wanted this to go. Definitely a lot of fun stuff, a lot of cool stuff happening. Overall, I would say kind of a sad week, but it's like right before the sun comes out, it rains. Right before the sun comes out, the night is darkest. I'm not trying to be cheesy, but you got to learn, got to get better. And like I said, this is not a short-term sprint. It is a long, long marathon. Keep grinding, keep pushing, and keep learning. Because one day, we're going to get that final form. When we get that final form, ain't nobody going to tell you what to do. All right, boys, girls, peace.